Hello and welcome to the Jewish Curiosity Podcast, where we ask questions and take journeys. We're in the midst of a journey of trying to understand our purpose here in this world. What are we doing here? And in this particular episode, we're discussing the idea of tikkun hamidot, character refinement, becoming better people, and how this perhaps is not necessarily just a barrier on the way to our real work in life, but perhaps it is our real work in life. I hope you enjoy. To be honest, I always thought of self-improvement as a kind of nuisance. There's so much that needs to be done in the world, and I want to do something about it. There are people who need help, and I want to help them. But more often than not, what stands in the way is my own imperfect character. Meaning, of course, there are practical barriers like difficult situations or difficult people, but if I were more patient, more compassionate, more thoughtful, I'd be able to navigate those challenges better and actually get to the goal of making a positive difference in the world. So why didn't God just make me that way? If He made me a better person, wouldn't that be much more efficient, much more productive? However, the Vilna Gaon has a statement which really turns this whole thing on its head. In his commentary on Mishlei, he says that the reason a person is living is to break a midah, a character trait, that he has not yet broken. Meaning, I tend to think of imperfect character as a hurdle on the way to doing my life's work. But according to this perspective, the character is the work. The purpose of life is tikkun hamidot, refining our character, becoming better people. So how do we actually do this? Of course, there are many approaches, countless books on the topic, but our own sages give us a framework which is both deep and very practical. See, the Tanya explains that our mind has three main components: chokhmah, bina, and da'at. And using these properly can enable us to really change ourselves for the better. So let's break that down. Chokhmah is the initial spark. It's the raw information that you receive. When you hear something, you read something, you learn something new, that's chokhmah. Bina is where you start to work with that information. You analyze it, you ask questions, understand the reasoning, you extrapolate from it and see how it applies in different situations. So chokhmah is the raw information, and bina is understanding that information. And then comes da'at. So da'at means connection. It's where you take all that information and analysis and you internalize it. You make it real to you. Because we all know just being aware of a truth doesn't mean that we're actually going to act upon it. Just because something's in our head doesn't mean it's necessarily going to make it into our hearts. Da'at is the thing which bridges the gap. It's what takes chokhmah and bina and integrates them into our lived experience. So what might that look like in practice? Let's take an example. Let's think about working on a midah of gratitude. So step one, I learn about the goodness that God does for me, for others, for the world. At that stage, that's chokhmah. Step two, I contemplate it. I ask questions. I try and understand that good in a deeper way. That's bina. And then comes da'at, making it real. Now, this can be done in all sorts of ways. For example, you could do a 2-minute meditation every day, thinking of a kind thing God did for you that day. You could write a gratitude journal. You could speak about gratitude to others when you get the chance. You could write a song about it and sing it to yourself throughout the day. There are lots of ways of doing it, but the key is to change ourselves. We need to take these ideas and integrate them into our lived experience, make them tangible, make them felt. And if we do this consistently, even for a short period of time, I bet we're going to notice the difference. So this is the big idea. Character refinement, not being an obstacle, but rather being the main event. God created an imperfect world and He calls upon us to perfect it. And so too, He created imperfect humans and He calls upon us to perfect ourselves. And through this process of chokhmah, bina, and da'at, learning, contemplating, and integrating, I think this is something that we can genuinely achieve. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Jewish Curiosity Podcast. If you want to find out more or check out more episodes, you can go to www.jewishcuriosity.com, or you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Have an amazing day, and hope to see you next time.